Once upon a time, in a crowded city where everyone was always rushing, there lived a 28-year-old man named Thomas. Thomas was known as the busiest person in his office. He arrived before everyone else. He left after everyone else. He worked on weekends. He answered emails at midnight. He took on every project that came his way. He never said no to anyone. His desk was covered with papers. His phone was full of notifications. His calendar had no empty spaces. From the outside, Thomas looked like a hardworking and dedicated person. His colleagues admired him. His boss praised him. Everyone said Thomas would go far in life because he worked so hard. But Thomas had a secret that nobody knew. Despite all his hard work, he was not achieving anything meaningful. He was busy every single day, but at the end of each month, he looked back and felt empty. He had completed hundreds of small tasks, but nothing important. He had attended dozens of meetings, but nothing changed. He was running as fast as he could, but he was staying in the same place. His body was exhausted. His mind was overwhelmed. He had no time for his family. He had no time for his friends. He had forgotten what it felt like to relax. He had forgotten what it felt like to enjoy life. Thomas was drowning in his own busyness, and he did not know how to stop. One evening, Thomas was working late as usual. The office was dark and empty. Only his desk lamp was on. He was staring at his computer screen, trying to finish yet another report. Suddenly, he felt a sharp pain in his chest. His heart was beating too fast. His hands were shaking. He could not breathe properly. Thomas was scared. He thought he was dying. He called for help, and an ambulance took him to the hospital. The doctors ran many tests. After a few hours, they told him it was not a heart attack. It was a panic attack caused by stress and exhaustion. The doctor looked at Thomas seriously and said, "Young man, if you continue living like this, your body will break down. You need to slow down. You need to rest." Thomas went home that night feeling confused and lost. He had always believed that working hard was the answer to everything. He had always believed that the more he did, the more he would achieve. But now his body was telling him something different. His body was telling him to stop. Thomas took a week off from work. He did not know what to do with himself. He was not used to having free time. He felt guilty for not working. He felt anxious for not being productive. On the third day of his break, Thomas received a phone call from his uncle. His uncle lived in a small town in the countryside. He was a carpenter who made furniture by hand. Thomas had not seen him in many years. His uncle said, "Thomas, I heard you are not feeling well. Why don't you come and stay with me for a few days? The fresh air will do you good." Thomas decided to go. He packed a small bag and took a train to the countryside. The journey was long and quiet. Thomas watched the city disappear and the green fields appear. The sky was bigger here. The air was cleaner. When he arrived at his uncle's town, he felt like he had entered a different world. Everything moved slowly. People walked instead of running. They talked instead of texting. They smiled at strangers. Thomas found his uncle's workshop at the edge of the town. It was a simple wooden building surrounded by trees. Inside, there were beautiful pieces of furniture. Tables, chairs, cabinets, all made by hand. Each piece was perfect. Each piece was a work of art. His uncle was working on a chair when Thomas arrived. He was a man in his 60s with gray hair and calm eyes. He looked up and smiled warmly. He said, "Thomas, welcome. It's been too long." Thomas hugged his uncle and looked around the workshop. He asked, "Uncle, your furniture is amazing. You must work day and night to make all of this." His uncle laughed softly and shook his head. He said, "No, Thomas. I work only 4 hours a day, sometimes less." Thomas was shocked. He could not believe what he was hearing. He said, "Only 4 hours? But how? How can you create such beautiful things in only 4 hours? His uncle put down his tools and wiped his hands on his apron. He said, "Sit down, Thomas. Let me tell you about the backward method." Thomas sat on a wooden stool and listened carefully. His uncle began to speak. "When I was young, I was like you. I worked all the time. I thought that more hours meant more success. I thought that doing more tasks meant achieving more results. I made as much furniture as I could. I took every order. I worked until my hands bled. But do you know what happened? My furniture was average. Nothing special. I was exhausted and unhappy. My customers were not impressed. My business was struggling." His uncle paused and looked at a beautiful cabinet in the corner. He continued, "Then one day, I met an old master carpenter. He was famous for his work. People came from far away to buy his furniture. I asked him for advice. I told him I was working so hard, but not succeeding. The old master smiled and said something I will never forget. He said, 'You are doing too much. That is your problem. If you want to achieve more, you must do less.'" Thomas was confused. He said, "But uncle, that doesn't make sense. How can doing less lead to achieving more? That seems backward." His uncle smiled and said, "That is exactly why it is called the backward method. It goes against everything we are taught. We are taught that more effort means more results. But that is not always true. Sometimes more effort just means more exhaustion. The secret is not to do more things. The secret is to do fewer things, but do them extremely well. The secret is to focus." His uncle stood up and walked to a shelf. He picked up a small wooden box. It was simple but incredibly beautiful. Every corner was perfect. Every surface was smooth as silk. He handed it to Thomas and said, "This box took me 3 days to make. Just this small box. In those 3 days, I gave it all my attention. I did not rush. I did not think about other tasks. I focused only on this box. And because I focused, it became something special. This box sold for more money than 10 average boxes. One perfect piece is worth more than 100 ordinary pieces." Thomas held the box carefully. He was beginning to understand. His uncle sat down again and said, "Let me tell you how the backward method works. Most people start by asking, 'What can I add to my day? What more can I do?' But the backward method starts with a different question. It asks, 'What can I remove from my day? What should I stop doing?' You see, Thomas, we have limited time and limited energy. When you spread yourself across 100 tasks, you give each task only a tiny piece of yourself. But when you focus on only a few important tasks, you give them your full power. That is when magic happens." Thomas thought about his own life. He thought about all the meetings that wasted his time. He thought about all the emails that did not matter. He thought about all the projects that kept him busy, but never led anywhere. He asked, "But uncle, how do I know which tasks to focus on? How do I know what is important and what is not?" His uncle nodded and said, "That is a wise question. Here is what I learned. Ask yourself this. If I could only do one thing today, what would make the biggest difference? That one thing is your priority. Do that first. Give it your best energy. Give it your best hours. Everything else can wait. And some things, you will realize, do not need to be done at all." His uncle walked to the window and looked outside at the trees. He said, "There is another part of the backward method. It is about saying no. When you say yes to everything, you say no to the important things. Your time gets filled with other people's priorities. You become busy with things that do not matter to you. The backward method teaches you to protect your time. Say no to the unimportant, so you can say yes to the important. Every no is a yes to something better." Thomas spent a week with his uncle. Every day, he watched how his uncle worked. His uncle never rushed. He never multitasked. He did one thing at a time. with complete focus and attention. He took breaks. He rested. He enjoyed his meals. He spent time in nature. And yet, at the end of each day, he had created something beautiful. Thomas realized that his uncle was not lazy. His uncle was wise. He had learned the secret that most people never discover. Less can be more when you focus on what truly matters. Before Thomas left, his uncle gave him a small piece of wood. He said, "Take this with you. Whenever you feel the urge to do too much, hold this wood and remember what I taught you. Remember that your energy is precious. Do not waste it on things that do not matter. Focus on a few things. Do them with love. Do them with care. That is the path to real achievement." Thomas returned to the city, but he was a different person. He looked at his work with new eyes. He started to question everything on his to-do list. He asked himself, does this really matter? Does this move me toward my goals? He started saying no to meetings that wasted time. He stopped answering emails that were not important. He chose 3 priorities each day and focused only on those. At first, his colleagues were surprised. Some even criticized him. They said he was not working hard enough. But Thomas did not listen. He trusted the backward method. Weeks passed. Something amazing began to happen. Thomas was doing less, but he was achieving more. His work improved. His projects were more successful. His boss noticed the difference. More importantly, Thomas felt different. He was not exhausted anymore. He had time for his family. He had time for himself. He was happier than he had ever been. He finally understood that busyness was not the same as productivity. Running fast was not the same as running in the right direction. Thomas shared the backward method with his friends, who were also struggling with stress and overwhelm. Some of them tried it, and their lives changed too. They realized that they had been prisoners of their own busyness. They learned that doing less with focus was more powerful than doing more with distraction. The backward method was not about being lazy. It was about being smart. It was about choosing quality over quantity. It was about living with intention instead of living in chaos. If you are feeling overwhelmed, if you are busy but not achieving, maybe it is time to try the backward method. Stop asking what you can add to your life. Start asking what you can remove. Focus on fewer things. Do them with all your heart. Protect your time like it is the most precious thing you have, because it is. Sometimes the path to more is through less. Sometimes the way forward is backward. If this story helped you see things differently, please give it a like and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Subscribe to our channel so you never miss a story that could change your life. Thank you for being here with us today. Your time is valuable, and we are grateful you chose to spend it with us. Until next time, remember to focus on what matters, let go of what does not, and trust that doing less with love is always better than doing more with stress. See you in the next story.